today's leadership section. I personally give thanks to God for the opportunity of doing the presentation. And just for emphasis sake, today's presentation that I'm taking, it doesn't mean I'm an expert in the field, but out of research and studies, I'm going to be giving my best to the topic of today. And I hope at the end, there will be contributions and questions as to also add more light to the topic. So today we are looking at a very interesting topic that cut across every aspect of our lives. So I call it interesting because it's something that we are all involved in at one point or the other in our life. And I want to believe, please confirm you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. I think I can just go ahead and put it on. Trying to. Just a minute. Let me put it on presentation mode. Okay. It's proving a little bit difficult. Okay. All right. Here we go. Okay. All right. I think I'm good now. So today we are looking at this wonderful topic, an interesting one at that, and it's coping with stress. Stress is something that when we talk about, it's more of negativity as to how it affects our human life and then our day-to-day productivity. So we're going to be looking at how we cope with this menace, I call it, that is known as stress in our today's world. So I'll be guided by this outline. Okay, so I'll be guided by this outline. What is stress? Stressors and their examples, how the human body react to stressors, the type of stress, the effects of stress, stress management, coping strategies, relaxation technique, and Bible scriptures on stress. That is what the Bible has to say about stress. Now, if you look at this outline, we find out that it's something that can probably take the whole day, as per se. But I'm going to try as much as I can to see how we can do justice to this in the next 40, 15 minutes. All right. Now, checking activity. We're going to be starting with this. When we hear the word stress, from the sound, are we saying that stress is always a problem? That is, it is unhealthy and negative. So if our answer is yes, let me have our comment. And if the answer is no, why? If it is yes, why? If it is no, why? Talking about seeing stress as problematic and something always unhealthy and negative. So I want to hear our perspective. So if you want to respond for the next 30 seconds to 1 minute, maybe one person or two persons can just quickly share their perspective or their idea about if stress is a problem, it's something always negative. Anybody want to try? Anybody want to try? Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Mommy Ada. I can see your hand up. Welcome back. We missed you. Please unmute and let's hear your points.
Thank you. Good evening, all. I'm still in my hometown. No, I'm not back, bro.
Oh,
Okay. Yes. Stress. Thank you. Stress is not always negative. Okay. Although when we say we are stressed, we're fagged out, we need time and all that, we are tired. But sometimes when you are stressed, or when you experience that, sometimes it makes you think outside the box. It can sometimes ginger you, into action to do extra things. But the issue now is the level. If you're able to control the level, when it's getting out of hand, you'll be able to draw the line. But sometimes we need that, to go to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mamiada, for that wonderful answer. I think, as a matter of fact, you've actually given us the presentation. But let it not be that as if I didn't do my job, so I'll just go ahead. Thank you for that contribution. All right, so based on what Mamiada said, that stress is not always negative. Now, let's look at this quote. I think we'll use this as a food for thought as we go on with the presentation. This was a quote by Anselier. Anselier is regarded as the father of stress research, and is well known for his wonderful works on stress. And part of this presentation are actually from one of his books talking about living a life of stress. So, and what he said is, the only person without stress is a dead person. I'm sure this must ring a bell in our heads right now. The only person without stress is a dead person. Now let's go into the presentation and then see what stress is and then how we can actually cope with it. So what is stress? So we say any stimulus, event, or demand impacting on the sensory nervous system, right? Stress is the body's automatic response to any physical or mental demand placed on it. So in other words, stress can also be seen as the feeling of being overwhelmed or unable to cope with mental and emotional pressure, right? So stress on its own is not a bad thing. It's not always negative or something that we should all avoid by all means possible. But when we are unable to cope with it, when we lack the mental or emotional wherewithal to be able to put through with it, that is when it becomes a problem. And that's what we're going to be dealing on as we go on with the presentation, how to cope with it when it becomes overwhelming and devastating. So we say stress can also be seen from a very simple perspective, the formula that I have on my screen, which is X equals to P greater than R. So we say that stress occurs when the pressure that you have greatly outweighs the resources available to you. So it is pressure without the necessary resources to be able to cope with it. Then you now begin to fall into stress, which can be very devastating. So what are common life stressors? Common life stressor that I've been able to point out here is major life events such as having to lose a loved one, when you get divorced or you are relocating. This can mount a whole lot of stress and pressure on the individual involved. We also see trauma as a stressor. Trauma such as abuse, which can be sexual, physical, emotional, or even trauma from accidents. When you get yourself involved in an accident, over time you begin to, the feeling always come up maybe when you are traveling or you find yourself in a situation that reminds you of what has happened before. It begins to pop up. Like I have a friend today that he said he's not going to drive again, or he doesn't drive anymore, not because he can't drive, but because at some point he had an accident while driving. And for that reason, to avoid any form of trauma and stress, he just stopped driving. So those are kind of the things that can, form stressors in our life. Then social stressors such as relationship issues, family changes, illness, social phobia, those can also be a stressor in our life. Occupational stressors such as work overload, when you have deadlines, or even when you are even unemployed, right? Idleness can also cause stressors for us. And then substance abuse such as caffeine, alcohol, when you're on meds, smoking, drugs, and all of that. Those are the things that can be a major form of life stressors to an individual, so which we need to be very, very careful of. So how does our body respond to stress? our body responds to stress in different ways. Like it's not one size fits all thing, right? The way my body will react to stress might be different from the way Brother Benitez will react, or Mommy Obani will react, or Mommy Ada will react to our own stress, depending, how it comes. So some of the ways our body responds to this stress is when your muscles begin to get tense and they prepare to react faster. So your body begins to get, you begin to feel the fact that your body is jerking, you begin to be shaking. So that is one of the way your body responds to stress. Then the lungs works harder to provide more oxygen, which can also lead to breathlessness. We find it difficult to breathe sometimes. So when you are stressed, you begin to see that you are shaking, you experience breathlessness, or you have a situation where you begin to feel tachycardia. That is the process where your heart begins to pump blood harder and faster to send oxygen to all the muscles. Or sometimes you feel sweaty, you sweat a lot, and then this is the way your body tries to lose heat. So these are ways our bodies respond to stress. And when we begin to notice this, when you notice that you are beginning to sweat a lot, unlike how you used to be, or your heart rate is beginning to pump faster, or you are experiencing breathlessness, or at some point, maybe you begin to experience your hand or your leg shaking that is not supposed to be, you need to watch out on the kind of things you do. It can be as a result that your stress level is increasing, and that can be dangerous. Right. So what are the type of stress? So for the sake of this presentation, we're going to be focusing on two types of stress. Basically, there are two types of stress, and then we're going to be looking at their definitions, examples, and how they impact in our life as individuals. So the first one is eustress. So eustress is defined as a positive form of stress that motivates and energizes us. All right. It feels challenging, but it's something that we can always manage, and it leads to growth and positive outcome. Now, for me, this is the kind of stress that's put us on the spot, like the kind of stress that we want to engage in, that make us to achieve our target, that make us to, meet up with our deadlines, that will make us to want to being able to meet our goals and objectives in life. Imagine when you set a target for yourself, let's say in 2 years' time or 3 or 5 years' time, you want to achieve something. Maybe you want to buy a property or you want to get married. Those are stressors, right? But because it's a positive one, you begin to, put yourself on the edge, trying as much as you can as an individual to meet up with that timeline that you've set for yourself. So as a result, you are stressing yourself, but you know that the outcome of it, or the end result of it, is going to be fulfilling. It's going to be an accomplishment for you. So that puts you on the edge. So example of such stress is, feeling confident about having to solve a problem or coping with the situations. You're confident about it. You know you can do it, but yet it's still, posing some level of stress for you. But in all, it's something that you can handle perfectly. Stress related to exams, when you have prepared very well for the exam and you are sure that you can handle it, but that the exam is approaching can also be posing stress to you as a person. But you already know that you are well prepared for it, and then you could handle it. So that is all another way of dealing with stress. Just a minute, please. All right. Apologies, just trying to avoid the noise that is coming in from my background. Okay. So then another thing that can also lead to this eustress, which is the positive stress, is major life changes. Like, when you have to move, you are relocating from maybe Nigeria to another country, which is the jackpot syndrome we are talking about. Because it's a positive thing, it's something that you desire, it can pose a stress for you, but you know that the end result is also going to be, an accomplishment and a fulfillment for you, or getting married, like I mentioned earlier on. So the impact of eustress, which is the positive eustress, is that it can enhances our focus, help us to focus. It encourages, taking on new challenges, and it creates a sense of accomplishment. So when you have been able to do the things you set out to do on this stress level, then it will be able to give you some level of accomplishment, and then you'll be glad that you've been able to do the things you set out to do. So another form of, or the second type of stress is the distress. The distress. This is area we are focusing on today. and then how we can cope with it, because this is the negative part, which can be adverse and then dangerous to our health if care is not taken. So this is defined as a negative stress that feels difficult and overwhelming. It occurs when a person feels unable to cope. All right. So at this point, if one is not careful, it can lead to state of emergency, and then we begin to look for how we can get solution to it. And if person is not, urgent medical attention is not taken, I mean, it can also result to other dangerous health situations. So what are examples of this distress? Anxiety or panic due to lack of preparation for an exam. You're having an exam and it's fast approaching and you're not yet prepared for it. It's as if you are just going to, failure awaiting, and then that panic, that anxiety is setting and it can be dangerous. Then you can also, another example of it is breakup or loss of a partner. So when you lose a loved one or you break up from a relationship, it can pose some level of stress for us, and sometimes it can also, make us to want to, distance ourselves from some people, and then depression and other dangerous habits can set in. And so the impact of this is the fact that it can lead to negative emotions, fear, and anxiety if we do not use the proper coping techniques or strategy to deal with it. All right, so what are the effects of stress? Now, because we are focusing on the negative aspect, which is the distress, I mean, we already know that stress can be eustress, which is the positive one, and then the negative one, which is the distress. So we are going to be focusing more on the negative aspect, which is the distress. So the effect of a negative stress can be of two types, can be physical and it can be emotional. So when it is physical, it can lead to weight loss or weight gain, as the case may be, unexpected hair loss, all right, heart palpitation. That is when you begin to breathe faster and your heart pump rate begin to increase more than the usual, how it's supposed to be. And then we also talk about high blood pressure. And when you look at this list, when you find yourself experiencing any of this, you already know that in state of emergency, that you need urgent medical attention. If not, the resultant effect can be very adverse. All right. So we also have the emotional effects, which can lead to mood swing, anxiety. Mood swing, I mean, is always common with women. Then anxiety can also lead to depression. Can lead to unhealthy coping strategies, which are things like, somebody going into alcohol, drinking, doing drugs, and etc. And this can be adverse because some of it, people see it as a way of trying to, cope with it or manage it. But in the long run, it can be a way of even causing more harm to the body than good, because they are unhealthy for the body on their own. All right. So having understood what stress is, and then understanding the fact that stress is part of our daily life, just as we said from the quote from say here that the only person that does not have stress is somebody that is dead. So stress is part of our life. And so all we have to do is to cope with it, and coping with it in such a way that it will not be dangerous to our health. So how do we now see stress, or how do we now manage the stress that we are faced with on a daily basis? Managing it is just a way of making sure that it don't go, from being a eustress into a distress, right? So just to make sure that we keep the gauge on the right level for it, triggers into something that is what we don't want, or something unwanted in our system. So the management of stress involves any technique developed to help someone cope with or lessen the physical and emotional effects of everyday life pressure, right? Because of our human nature and the activities that we engage in on a daily basis, stress is part of it. So how we manage it is, the strategies, the coping skills we put in place that can help us, to be able to fight those pressures that come our way on a daily basis, so that it will not metamorphose from a positive angle into a negative angle. All right. So what are the steps to stress management? And the first and only step to stress management is for us to be able to identify the sources of stress in our life, right? It is properly said that if you don't know where you are coming from, you will not know where you are going to. Okay. So the important thing for us to do is to be able to identify, where the stress is coming from in our life. And just as we said, that it's not always and it's not as easy as it sounds, when we look at it from that perspective. But as human beings, we need to look closely into our habits, into our attitude, and into our excuses, as to not be able to meet up with the things we want to meet up with, which can lead to stress in our life. Now, somebody say excuses never exist until you created them, right? So meaning that you can always find time to do some things. And I remember some time ago in one of the leadership session that I attended with the right, and he said something about the difference between making an excuse and giving a reason, right? So when you give a reason for not being able to do something, reason always come before, but excuses come after you've not been able to do what you needed to do. So when we are able to check these excuses and trying as much as possible to move away from giving excuse into giving reasons, and by so doing it to help us to a large extent to be able to meet up with our deadlines, and by so doing eliminating excuses completely. So until we are able to accept responsibility for the role we play in creating or managing it, which is the stress, our stress level will always remain outside of our control. And that is where the problem lies, when it is outside our control. By the time it becomes outside our control, it becomes a state of emergency for us. Then something needed to be done urgently for us not to, you know, completely lose it. All right. So what are the coping strategies? So there are a lot of coping strategy, and like I said, you have to find the one that suits you, that is conducive for you, that you can adopt, and then being able to cope with the stress as they come on daily basis. Now, first on my list is being active, right? As a coping strategy, being active speaks to the fact that you do not need to, be idle. Like when you have issues that are bothering you, things that are stressing you out as a person, what you need to do sometimes to be active is to find, physical activity that you can engage yourself in. Because when you feel, when you feel, um, when you feel inactive, that can lead to a point where you just be wallowing away in the stress with what is stressing you, and before you know it, you completely lose it. So it is important that you get yourself active, and then that can help you to take away your attention from the stressors. Then another thing that you need to do is to exercise. Exercise will not make the stress to disappear, no, but by exercising, it can give you some level of calmness that releases the intensity of whatever it is that is making you stress out. And then you can be calm enough and have clarity to be able to deal with the situation squarely. That is one. Then another thing you need to do is to take control. Taking control speaks to the fact that you need to tell yourself you can do it. It can be done, right? It is popular saying that somebody that say it cannot be done, to that such person, it cannot be done. But for the person that say it
Sorry, everyone. I think brain is out a bit. Let's be patient.
Me not, oh gentle Savior, hear my heart, oh cry.
Oh, all right. My apologies for the break in transmission. Honestly, I do not know what happened. For some reasons, my laptop just went off, and I'm finding it difficult to turn it back on right now. Okay, so I think I'm just going to go on with my phone. I may not be able to share my screen on the phone, but let's just see how far we can go with the presentation. My sincere apologies. This is not good. This is not.
Savior, Savior, my humble cry. On others thou art called, only do not pass me by. Savior, 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 my humble cry. On others thou art called, only to not pass
Okay,
me by.
my sincere apologies. My sincere apologies, everyone. Please confirm you can hear me.
Yes,
Yes,
we
please
can
go
hear
ahead.
you.
Okay. All right. So I will not be able to project now because I'm using my phone. So, but I will try as much as I can because I'm still finding it difficult to put on my laptop. Or I'll send the slide um, to the organizers, and probably we can post it on the platform so everybody can have access to it. And then if opportunity arises again, I don't mind having to take out the presentation again, or probably um, continue from where my sister went off. So I'll just continue with my phone. Sorry, I can't be able to project. Okay, so I was talking about the point where we need to take control. So I talk about the fact that taking control is you being positive, all right, about the situation, telling yourself you can do it, and not just feeling like there is no solution to the problem. So when the point where you begin to see that or feel that there is no solution to the problem, it's also adding more stress to the already existing problem already. So that feeling of you taking control and empowering yourself and telling yourself that there is a solution and it can be done. That is you taking control of the situation. That will help you to cope with the stress. Then another coping strategy is to connect with people, right? Connecting with people simply means, having somebody to talk to, or so we also refer to as having an accountability partner, right? Somebody you can confide in, right? And it's a popular saying that a problem shared is half solved. Okay, so when you are able to talk to people about what you are going through, the stress that you're facing, it's it's very is a good way of coping with the stress, and that could also help you to take your mind off it. So spending some time with your friends, family, loved ones, and all is a way that can also help you to deal with stress issues, right? So another thing is for you to be able to, for us um, to take time to have our me time, right? Having our me time is very important because a lot of times we find ourselves, all worked up and then having to, move from one place to another, trying to meet up with deadlines, appointments, and all of that. And then we forget to, give ourselves some treat or give ourselves some me time. Having a me time is very important where you just, take out time from work, from anything that is disturbing you, clear your mind, and then you will just find time to relax and then focus on just you. And that is another way you can also that can help you to cope with stress away from work. Then another coping strategy that you need to adopt to be able to cope with stress is to avoid unhealthy habits. Avoiding unhealthy habits is very important because a lot of times this is peculiar with men in most cases, unhealthy habits like indulging in alcohol, smoking, um, the use of substances, and all of that. People see it as a way of coping with stress, right? But that is just a momentary um, way out. In fact, that is being referred to as an avoidance behavior. Avoidance behavior in the sense that the stress will always be there waiting for you by the time you are through with all those, temporal way out that you want to create for yourself. So it is better for us to seek the proper way that you can deal with it than indulging in those unhealthy behavior, which in the long run can also cause, pose more problem to you as a person. So another thing we can also do as a way of coping with stress is to work smarter and not harder. Work smarter and not harder. I think it was last week, Sister Anu did a very good job when she talked about, time management, and then Stephen Covey time quadrants that she explained to us. These are ways we can work smarter and not harder because it speaks to managing our time in a proper way where we can do more quality work rather than doing a work of quantity. And then in the time contract, it speaks to the fact that we need to focus more on things that are important, things that matters and not things that do not matter. And from that time contract, it's important that we find ourselves on that contract too, which is a contract that is not urgent but is important. But a lot of times we find ourselves on the contract one, where that the contract of crisis, where it is urgent and important, and then before we know it, we we find ourselves in a situation where even the stress level that we are feeling will be increased. So, but when we take our time to align our activities, our work habits, and put them under quadrant two, it gives us time to relax, it gives us time to think, and also give us time to get ourselves involved in things that are more important. I remember one of the book I read from Brian Tracy that is titled Eat That Frog some years ago. He said something very important. He said things that matter most should not be at the mercy of things that matter less. So which is very important. And when we put things that matter most at the forefront, it will help us to be more smarter with our activities and then not just finding ourselves working all around the clock and probably not be able to achieve what we need to achieve. And then another positive strategy that we need to put in place is for us to be positive mentally, having a positive mindset as an individual, right? So when we have this positive mindset, it actually gives us, the relief knowing that we can do it or it can be done. Because a lot of times, the man that said it cannot be done is always interrupted by a man already doing it. right? So when you feel that the situation is something that you cannot handle, and you're already losing hope, that could pose more stress to you as an individual. So having a positive mental attitude, telling yourself that you can do it, that is something that can be done, and then you try to martial out strategies on how to go about it, that could help us to cope with level of stress and not allowing it to shoot from eustress into distress, where it can become adverse to us as an individual. And then the last point I have here is accepting the things that cannot be changed. Change is a difficult situation, and it isn't always positive, right? But in as much as it is, sometimes there are some things that we cannot do anything about, and that is what Stephen Covey also refers to as finding yourself in the cycle of concern. When you find yourself in the cycle of concern, yes, the government is not doing what they're supposed to do for the masses. The systems are not working. The laws are not effective as they're supposed to be. As a country, yes, those are the things we are concerned about. But what can you do as an individual about it? Practically nothing. So our focus should not be on the things that are in our area of our cycle of concern, but rather we should focus more on our cycle of influence, the things we can do something about, the things we can change as an individual. But when we are faced with things that we cannot change, we should just let it be and then focus more on areas we can influence. Like, okay, I have a deadline. My boss wants me to deliver on this. How can I do it? Who do I need? What help do I need? What assistance do I need that can help me to meet up? Those are the things we'll be focused on, which are within our cycle of influence, and then taking our minds away from the things that are outside our influence, which is on the cycle of concern that we can't actually do anything about. So after being able to put all these coping strategies in place, then there is something else that we also need to do that will also help us to cope with stress, and that is deploying or devising relaxation techniques. And what are these relaxation techniques? Relaxation techniques are also is phenomenon with the coping strategy, because it always help us to meditate. But these are more therapeutic in nature, because it will actually give us some level of some sense of relief, and then being confident about the situation we are facing, and then also having the hope that it's something that we can always surmount, and it's not insurmountable for us as individuals. So one of those relaxation techniques is meditation, right? If the slide was open, and I have some diagram pictures I would have shown, but my apologies that I'm not able to do that at the moment. Now, so relaxation and meditation is something that is very important for us, and is something that we have to take our time, to relax, meditate. Just the process is basically simple. You just sit down, cross your leg if you have the opportunity to, then close your eyes and just meditate. Try to clear your mind from, whatever it is that is stressing you out, and just focus on yourself. And while you are doing that, you can also, be giving yourself some positive mantra, like, that I love myself, I am capable, I can do it, I am loved, I am accepted, I am likable, I can, I will, I must succeed. Just telling yourself those positive things that can actually put you, make you see yourself from a positive perspective, and not just focusing on the things that are weighing you down, the things around you. So meditation is very important. That's one of the way we can relax and then help us cope with stress that we find ourselves in. So another thing is for us to breathe deeply. Breathe deeply is very important, because sometimes we don't see it. In fact, as Nigerians, people living in this part of the country, in Lagos, we usually don't find enough time for ourselves, and we end up not even having to breathe the way we're supposed to breathe. And this is very important for us, because they are all therapeutic. And interestingly, it is something that we can actually do just, when you feel you are overwhelmed with work and all, just give yourself maybe 5-10 minutes, sit down and take a deep breath from your nose, maybe placing your hands on your belly, and then you take a deep breath, you inhale, and then you feel the air moving it from your abdomen and working its way through, the nostril to your head, and then you now reverse the process by exhaling through the mouth. And when you do that, 1, 2, 3 times, you find out that it will help you to deal with or counter those things that are causing stress in your life. And one of the ways that breathing deeply help us is slowing down the heart rate and then lowering the blood pressure. So if we take a deep breath, sometimes it will help us to, cope with or counter some of those things that can cause stress in our life. The other thing that we need to do is to be present. One of the relaxation techniques in coping with stress is to be present. Being present simply means hello, am I audible? Can I go ahead?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so one of the things we can do is present. So being always being on the rush, because in this part of the world, we find ourselves always on the rat race, right? Rushing to meet up with, from when you wake up in the bed, you jump up, you want to get to work, and then you don't want to beat the traffic, you want to meet up with appointment and all of that. We are always on the move. But being present is us taking our time, to be aware of ourselves, focusing on one thing at a time, right? And giving our body, that a sense of awareness of not just always being on the rush. And by so doing, we can begin to, notice some things about our face, about our body. Imagine how you are moving on the road, or maybe you are in your car, you wind down the glass and then you feel the breeze, gliding with your face and all of that. That is you being present. Recently, research has shown the concept of presentism, like you being in a place, maybe in a meeting, in a conference, you are seated there presently, but your mind is every other place apart from where you are seated. That is the concept of presentism, and that is caused as a result of the so many distractions that face us as human beings, so many things, battling for our attentions at the same time. And that is why the attention span of an adult is thinning down on daily basis. So we need to be present so we can be able to deal with some stress that comes our way. And then the last thing I mentioned there, which is very important, is laughing out loud. Laugh out loud. Take our time to laugh. Now, that does not mean you should be laughing indiscriminately, please, right? But taking our time to laugh is a therapeutic way of trying to cope with your stress. Because when you have a good belly laugh, it doesn't just lighten your load mentally in your head, but also lower the cortisol your body stress hormone produces. And by so doing, it will help to increase your brain chemical that is called endorphin that boosts up your mood. So endorphin is being secreted when you laugh, and then by so doing, your mood is lightened up, and then you begin to, see yourself from a more different mood from, when you just focus on the stress that you're facing and all. So what do you do? At some time in your life or in your day, when you feel you have been overworked and or you're stressed out, just take out time to tune into that favorite video of yours that you like that will make you laugh. Watch them and take out time to laugh. And by so doing, you can help to reduce the stress level. Or you call up that special person, family, a friend, loved one that you know that, okay, when you have a conversation with this person, you always put smiles on your face. And when you do that, that will help us to cope with stress. Now, these are all, the things I've been able to put together. And then what does the Bible say about stress? There are so many Bible verses on stress, but I'll just mention maybe like two or three just for the sake of the presentation because our time is fast spent, right? One of the most important verse I always refer to is Matthew chapter 18, verse 28. It says, come to me, all you that are labored and heavily laden, and I will give you rest, right? So this part of the Bible portion is not saying that stress is not supposed to be part of our life, but what is actually saying that whenever we feel that we are stressed out and then the whole thing seems overwhelming, that we can always go to God in prayer, and definitely He has assured us that He will give us rest, and rest He will definitely give to us. And then in the book of Proverbs chapter 3 from verse 5, it made mention of the fact that you should trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, right? Sometimes when we feel we are experienced or we have all the knowledge, we are exposed and then we are educated and then we want to deal with everything by ourselves, we can be overwhelmed and that can lead to a whole lot of stress for us. but trusting in the Lord and leaning not on our own understanding. And in verse 6 of it, it says we should acknowledge Him and then He will direct our path. So sometimes we need to let some things go, either through delegation or just forgoing there completely, so that we can have the kind of life that we have that is free from the distress, and then can also stick with us on the right path of having the positive stress. And relying solely on God can actually give us that advantage. And then finally, I think what the Bible is basically saying, that there are so many other verses, but I'm just going to limit to this, because the Bible is saying that our life is that having stress. The Bible is not saying that having a life of stress is a sin, but what it's simply saying that there are ways we can cope with it, and ultimately it also calls us to the fact that we need to go to God in prayer, because He is the author and finisher of our faith. And then finally, in conclusion, I'll just end by saying that stress is a common element of our daily life. It could harm or beneficial or benefit us depending on the way we deal with it. So the first step to stress management is to identify the source of the stress, which we mentioned earlier on. Know where the stress is coming from by checking our habits, our attitude, and also our excuses. That could also help us to manage it. Then after that, it's up to us to choose any of the suitable coping or relaxation strategies which we've mentioned that will help us deal with this stress. Remember, stress can be positive and it can be negative, but how we deal with it to a large extent put us on the path where it will not become adverse to us. So when you feel you are stressed out and it feels overwhelming, look for the strategies, the right strategy that works for you from all that we've shared in the course of this presentation, and then relying solely on God as well. That will also help us to cope with stress. So the first thing is for us to understand that stress is not always negative, not always unhealthy, and it's not always a problem, but how we deal with it matters a lot. So this will bring us to the end of the presentation. I actually had a video I wanted to show, but my sincere apologies that I cannot do that. So thank you very much for the opportunity for this presentation. Pray that the Lord will give us understanding and help us to cope properly and devise the right strategy that will help us to deal with our stress on a daily basis. In Jesus' name, amen. Questions and contributions?
Amen.
Okay, it's time for question and contribution. Is there anyone who would love to ask question or contribute to the topic of this evening on coping with stress? According to Bro Brain, stress is not always unhealthy, not even negative, but how we handle it is determine probably the outcome of it. So, and then I also remember there was a time the right talked about stress, and he said something. He said demand minus coping skill is equal to stress. That is when the demand is so much that you don't have solutions to them, then it becomes stressful. But I think in as much as we can still tackle and proffer solutions to all the demands, I think we are still good to go. Is there any contribution or question? We are watching in the next few minutes. Then after that, Sister Chiamaka will help us with prayer request and then also prayer question.
I think some hands are raised in the chat box. People have raised their hands.
Okay, please, ma, go ahead. Go ahead. You want to give contribution or question?
I just want to ask,
When somebody is worried about a particular thing, would we call worrying stress?
Okay, Brain, can you hear him? Brain, can you hear the person, our sister?
Yes, yes.
When person is worried on a
Yes.
when person, okay, can you hear her?
And the question, Sister Telema. So when you're worrying
And
about
the question
something,
is, when you're worried about
yeah,
a
when you're
particular
worrying about
thing, would you
something,
count
if you
that
can
as
do
part
that.
of stress?
Alright. Yes, it is part of stress. Actually, it is part of stress because remember we said from the beginning that stress is part of our everyday life. The only person without stress is somebody that is dead. When you have something you are expecting, your mind is always there. It's stress. But when it becomes and it can be a positive stress, it can be a negative stress, right? So you knowing that something you are expecting something, you want something, and then your attention, your mind is on it, it's part of stress, but it is still a positive stress, which is you stress. But when it becomes negative, it's when you now begin to feel, depressed, or you now stop being focused on other thing because of that particular thing that is worrying you. Now, one thing that we need to understand about this thing called stress, like we said, now apart from the fact that it's something that that is part of our life, the truth of the matter is that nobody has ever got out of life alive. I'll repeat myself again. Nobody has ever got out of life alive. And the moment we realize that, the better for us, because we begin to look at things from a different perspective, right? Now begin to see things from positive aspects. Yes, you're having something you're worrying about is good, but
Okay.
when it now becomes all that you think about, and then because of that, you no longer concentrate, and then you now begin to suffer from temporal amnesia, where you now begin to forget things just because you're allowing the worry to take, to get a better hold on you and all of that. Then it becomes bad. It becomes negative. That is the point. So, for that you're worrying about something, you're expecting something, it's not a bad thing on its own. But when we allow it to now weigh us down because maybe we are expecting it to happen on a particular time, it has not happened, and then because of that, we now begin to lose focus and be downhearted and all of that. That is when it becomes dangerous. So we need to watch it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I asked that question because most times we worry about things we have no control over. So
Exactly.
if we are able to separate ourselves from the things we do not have control over, I think we will have less anxiety and less worries. Even though it's not that easy, but I think we should just, and that's what I try to do, and that is what I think that we should all do. Whatever you don't have control over. I have one slogan I used to write in my under my signature in the office, and it says, "Why worry when you can pray?" I noticed that some people have seen that stuff, and when they see me, they will say, "Ah, why worry when you can pray?" Madam say, "Why worry when you can pray?" So, what is the point worrying yourself when you can pray about a particular, especially the ones we don't have control over? May God help us to manage ourselves and manage our stress. What we cannot control, please let's leave it. God will take care. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Sister Telema. Just to add to what you said about worrying, it just made me to remember something that I read some time ago from one of these Indian authors. I can't remember his name now. So what he said in one of his presentation about worrying, he said, "Do you have a problem in life?" He said, "Yes." "Can you do something about it?" "Yes." "Why worry?" "Do you have a problem in life?" "Yes." "Can you do something about it?" "No." "Why worry?" Right? So it's just a cycle. The thing is that, just as you mentioned, when you know you can pray and then you can also talk to people and all, then there is actually no need for you to, work yourself out to the extent you now fall sick, and then probably in the long run, you even have to lose your life. When all that is done, the problem will still be there, right? Life still goes on and everybody will move on. So basically, it's just for us to be able to control it and let it not get out of hand. Thank you so much for that contribution, Sister Telema. All right, Mommy Ada, I can see your hand up.
Yeah, Bro Ben, when you started, you said that you are not an expert on this field, but you presented this topic so well that I would say you are an expert on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mama.
Bro Ben. I've learned so much from you. I learned today that you have eustress, which is positive when we're excited and all that. I've also learned that we could also be distressed. Yes, and my take from what you said today is that we can control the level of stress, because we cannot live without stress. Anybody that stays without stress is only a dead man. So
Yeah.
stress is here with us. Yes, I've experienced that. In fact, we can't imagine the harm that stress can cause on our lives. In fact, stress can cause so many illnesses that you would even think that your village people after you. I'm telling you, it's so bad. I experienced some, but I found out that my lifestyle contributed to it. Because there was a time I was worrying about so many things, and I was also busy trying to do so many things at a time in a day. And it affected my health so much. But I went to my doctor, had some tests. I even did CT scan and all that. But at the end of the day, it was found out that nothing was wrong, but my lifestyle. And that is because I carried so many things at a time. I wasn't sleeping well. I was thinking about so many things. And when I begin to narrow down those things, so right now, I've made up my mind. Is my policy now and that of my family that I do one thing at a time in a day. If I go to work, I don't branch to the market. I don't go to any other place, straight to work and then my house. And then I sleep early and then other things. So yes, stress could be harmful and we really need to work on it. Thank you so much, Bro Ben. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you so much. All right. So I don't know if there's any other question or contribution before we round up. All right, Stamolola, please unmute and go ahead. Yes, Stamolola, I can see your hand up. Please unmute and let's hear you.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Ma.
Okay, thanks. I said, like Sister Ada said, you've done justice to the topic. Thank you very much, and well done.
Thank
I
you.
also learned a lot. Yeah. I just wanted to react to Sister Ada's comment where she said she only does one thing per day, which is go back home straight from work without branching anywhere else. So my own question would now be, where I now have a lot of multiple responsibilities. So I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm working, and I have to juggle all of these balls together. It will be useful to know how I can cope with all of this together without being stressed. Because if I have to go straight home from work, I might get home and there's nothing to eat in the house, or I might forget to do some other things and then I end up dropping off some balls. So I'm just wondering how one can cope with how one can juggle all of these balls together. Because I'm thinking at a particular age, it might not be realistic, focusing on only one task at a time. Yeah, that would be my question.
All right, thank you very much. From Sister Momiada's example, I think because she said she has been in that situation, and from the way she was able to deal with it, it's something we can also learn from. Because before she set out to get help, it was when it was becoming bad, and just as you said, it affected her health. Her health was deteriorating, and then she had to seek for help and all of that. Now the thing is, in our everyday life, it is inevitable, just as you mentioned, as a career person, a mom, a wife, and all, so many things is, battling for your attention, and you just have to, find a way to be able to juggle all those together. But in the process of doing that, we should not lose ourselves. That is the point. Because the point where we lose ourselves and then you know, we get sick, or we um let's not think of the worst, those things that we are worrying about will still be there, and like life will still go on. But the point is, as human beings, we need to try as much as we can to strike a balance, right? Being able to strike a balance between all of this and still find out, make our time for ourselves to rest, to relax, to sleep, to be able to, like the techniques that we mentioned, meditate, you know, be in control, take be positive, and then find those things that you know that you can do that can help you take away your mind from all the stress. Remember, like we said, being as a mother and a career person, and you wanted to make up with your targets to get promotion and all of that, they are good, right? And those can also form be part of your use stress that can help you to develop to the level you want to develop, because it can give you a sense of accomplishment and fulfillment when all of that is done. But the moment when you now get so fixated on them, and then you now begin to lose yourself, the concept of rust out and burnout can also set in. And when you get to that point of being burnout, that can be very bad. And I think that was the point Mommy Ada got to, that she needed to seek help. So while doing that, we still need to take control. We still need to be in charge so that we cannot lose ourselves in the process. I think that's what I can say regarding that.
Well, hello, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I also want to say something. I want to first of all believe that our mothers who are asking these questions or saying few things concerning this are not aware. They are aware. But I think it's also good we are in a Christian family here this evening trying to share some of these things. I don't know, in my little way, I think in a Christian home too, we can collaborate together, the father and the mother. It doesn't matter the work we are in, provided we have agreed to take those tasks. Like she said, she's going to leave house in the morning, maybe even before going to work. She has to take care of the what's it called? Take care of the children and the family and every. There are some places you don't see nanny in most cases. These women did this thing on their own before stepping out in the morning, and then they come back again in the evening just to continue from where they stopped in the morning, and that could be very, very horrible, and that is the gospel truth. But I think in a Christian home where the daddy is not also leaving everything for mommy, just for my own case, the little I've been able to do here, for instance, in my house, by God's grace, I ask my wife not to do some certain things like going to fetch water, because this keg we have are too big for her. I see it as too big. It's not as if she cannot completely go and carry them, but I said no. So long as I'm at home, please don't do it. I will do it in the morning before I leave home. Also going to market sometimes, sir. I do go to market, meaning that there are days she's busy in her work with trying to deliver a material. She has to put these works together in order to deliver it. And I noticed that, or we noticed that there are no food in the house. There are no soup items in the house. Somebody needs to go to market. I mean, if I also ask her or leave it for her to go to market while she's attending to children, also trying to meet up the demand of the customer, that could weigh somebody down. So in that case, as family, husbands should do their own part in a family. You don't leave it for mommy alone, as well as mommy do your own part, and don't leave it for what's it called, husband alone. Where can you help when the mother is so attentive for, I mean, attending to the children? Where can daddy help? Where can daddy help when the mother is busy somewhere there? Now, between the time, like she said, she went outside for office work just to also put food for the family. What did the man do between that time and before she comes back from the office? What can we do? What can you buy in the market instead of her coming from office? It's not as if they are not aware. Instead of her coming from office and step over in the market, can me, can I do such work going to the market before she comes back? In fact, can I even cook the food? Which some days I do. Yes, some days I do. And if you eat my meal, I know, call my wife after now, ask her about my beans, one of the best beans in the world. So I did all those things just to see that I contribute to the family. So I think when we collaborate together, the essence, the summary of it all, is that when we collaborate together, we can achieve a lot more in the family and as well can reduce this stress. That's where I'm going. I don't know whether you hear me.
Thank you very much, Blessing, for your own experience. And I think that it's also a way of trying to deal with some of the things that we face at home, and that could also help us to relieve some of the stress that we might likely have to go through. So when we get help, and being able to do away with something that ordinarily, should be in the level of stress that we go through, that could also help us to be able to cope. All right. Thank you very much. I don't know, Mr. Mola, I don't know if that answer your question or if you still have still need some clarifications.
No, it has answered my question. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Right. Right. So I think that will be all for now. I will I'm sure to send the slide to the organizer so that they can post it on the platform and then everybody can have access to it. And like I said, if there's still opportunity for me to do this again, maybe a summary, I don't mind still doing it with the slide once more so that the point can be driven home properly. Thank you so much, everybody. All right, over to you, the organizer.
Okay, Sister Chiamaka, please go on from there, prayer request, as well as pray on them. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Please, can you confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Bro Brain, for the detailed and interactive section. I really learned a lot. One key lesson that I took is before we can manage stress, we have to identify the source of the stress. So I want to really thank you for this section. It has been a very interactive and impactful one. Okay, now it's time for us to take our